Doesn't it feel like the price is too high for some of these players? Well, probably because it is. I'll be breaking down that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane, and if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the bell below. It'll subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple and or Spotify. After that, you might as well join our subtext platform where you can send us that screenshot of that review and you'll get a chance to join our coveted listener league for this season. And you want to do that, and we'll talk about more of what the subtext is later in the episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And guys, it's that time of the year. ADP is moving and grooving and changing daily. And I just want to get a temperature check on ADP and, go over guys that, they're either guilty pleasures of fantasy managers of, I really think this is the year for this guy. And it just feels like it's costing too much, or maybe a guy's fallen too deep. But today we're covering overpriced players. And, is the price really worth it for these guys? And most of the guys, every guy I'm talking about today, I feel like the jury's out. It is too high. And you know what? It's important to go over okay, why do I feel this? Why do I feel like I should pay this price? And where I'm getting these players, is it really worth it? Who's around them? And kind of really break down, the pros and cons of these players. And, are they really worth their draft price at the end of the day? And for me, these guys, their draft price is way too high. Let's get into it. And I got a bunch of tasty names today and some spicy names that you're probably going to be like, dude, what are you talking about? But I'll get into my reasons why. Right now, my first name off the board is Bo Bichette. Probably all look at me like I'm cross-eyed, but ultimately, Bo Bichette is going 39th overall. And quite honestly, I'm not paying that. Bo, honestly, I feel like we're chasing a season that isn't going to come again. In 2021, that's the season that we're really chasing, where he had, 29 home runs, 25 stolen bases, and he batted 298, and he had 121 runs and 102 ribs. Well, it's been some time since he's done that. And honestly, it's just been getting worse ever since. Like 2022, okay, I can see why you guys still drafted him pretty decently high last year, especially since it was his age 24 season. And he almost paid back his draft price because he did a decent job with 91 runs, 24 home runs, 93 ribs, 13 stolen bases, and batted 290. Like that's a decent stat line. Definitely, busted in my opinion based off of where you had to draft him in 23. But going into 24 after his 23, performance, it's ugly for me. 571 at bats, 69 runs, 30 doubles, 3 triples, 20 bombs, 73 ribs, 5 stolen bases, batted 306. Out of that total line, the 30 doubles stands out really nicely, and the 306. Okay, I look at his stat line, and even though I highlighted the 30 doubles in points leagues, he's still not even valuable because he struck out 115 times to 27 walks. You're looking at Bo Bichette as the 39th pick off the board, where there's a whole bunch of other shortstops I'd much rather have either around him or going way after him, right? Like, okay, if that's my pick and that's where ADP falls to me, quite honestly, there's Randy Arozarena if you really want a stolen base guy, which is the upside that you'd be praying for Bo Bichette and would have the same or similar line, same or more better line than Bo Bichette. You have Adolis Garcia. I mean, yeah, you have Manny Machado. Like, there is guys over there that I'd 100% take over Bo Bichette, and I just don't feel that he is worth it at all at pick 39. Quite honestly, there's a world where he repeats exactly what he did last year with maybe 10 more runs and 10 more ribs, and that 39 draft price is still ugly. You're still regretting it. You're still kicking yourself in the butt. So quite honestly, I'm passing on Bo Bichette in all drafts. Honestly, he's just like a straight up avoid for me in all drafts, not just because of the price, because I think that is kind of more of a floor. And I don't think the ceiling is all that high, being that we've seen a trend in the downward trajectory. So, like, Bo Bichette for me is completely out. Excuse me. And I definitely would not pay that price whatsoever. But let me stop beating a dead horse here. Let's move on. Let's talk about more of a, how do I put this? More of a draft and team construction preference versus the actual player, because this is not an indictment on this player. This is more of how I like to construct my team and how I would prefer to get a more valuable, get a player that is, more on like the position matters kind of type deal. And let me just stop teasing it. It's Aldi Rutschman. Aldi just honestly, he's going high as well. Like, I mean, I think he's going. Let me pull up his ADP. Aldi is going. Sorry about that. It's really rough when you're doing this by yourself. Going pick 38 right before Bo Bichette, essentially. And you know what? Like, that's really rich for my blood, even though he could be the best catcher in the league, which 100% he's ranked that way in my rankings. By no means am I really doing an indictment and saying, oh, he's gonna bust this, that, and the third. But like, I'm just not picking a catcher that high. And I feel like nobody should. I would understand why you would pick him of all people. Does he deserve it? Is the upside there? Sure, the upside is there, but he hasn't done it yet. Do I think he's the next Buster Posey, if not better? Yeah, absolutely. But again, I never really drafted Buster Posey all that high either, because I just don't go and get my catchers. Like, around that time, like, I mean, around there, I'd scoop up like an Adolis, or I'd try and target another outfielder or a position that honestly matters. Like, yeah, it's nice to go and have the Aldi Rutschman and have like an everyday serious contributor on my in my lineup at catcher, where I have that advantage. But you put yourself at a disadvantage where there's other places where the tiers are just so far in between, and the talent drop off becomes pretty pretty extreme after a certain point. And with catcher, it's really kind of irrelevant in a lot of aspects, because it's just like, I can go and get a catcher at like pick 150, and he'll do, we'll say 85% about what Aldi Rutschman will do at the position. And I've paid a hell of a lot less, and I've been able to construct a more stronger lineup, and just like said, pass on catcher too. And if my catcher gets hurt, it isn't detrimental to my draft, and I was able to get better draft picks around there. So again, no indictment of Aldi Rutschman, but ultimately, I feel like the price is still too high for me, just based off of the fact that how I construct and draft and my draft philosophy around it. But going to be a great player ultimately. He just needs to be like, I don't know, like 40 picks cheaper for me to pick him. And then I can say, hey guys, like, this is the guy I'm going after. So ultimately, do not draft him just based off of the price and team construction and such. But all right. I got a whole bunch of names. Another serious, gonna probably be like, guys, like, Matt, what are you doing? Did you hit the bottle before coming on and recording this? But honestly, I think the next one's really important, and I'm gonna bring a lot of facts to the table. But before that, I got a sponsor for you. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit fanduel.com/locked on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And we are back here, and I got a whole bunch of cool stuff that Locked On's doing, especially Locked On has launched its first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you, here for you 24/7, covering top stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel. And I kind of mentioned it at the top of the show, but I'm going to really bring it in here. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Dive into this offseason with Dom and I as we provide you tier-based rankings with over 100 outfielders and starting pitchers ranked. Prospect insights, sleepers, breakouts, busts, personalized draft grades. And if you have those burning questions, we've got the answers. As the season unfolds, rely on us for our dynamic content. Get real-time alert right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up alerts, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where the path to victory begins. Subscribe now and elevate that fantasy baseball experience. And like I said at the top of the show, if you're going to go ahead and join the Subtext, which I highly recommend, you're going to want to just leave us a review on Apple and take a screenshot of it and send us in that message on the Subtext, and you'll get in. You'll get a chance to be in the listener league. So we're actually announcing it in a couple days. So tomorrow for you guys, and I'm really excited to see who's going to be in it. We already got one guy in, and from this week on, we're going to be giving away spots week in, week out, all the way up leading to the season. Going to try and get about 12 guys, and then Dom and I will be 13 and 14. So I know you're going to want to hop in there. It's going to be a good time. You're going to be able to see how we draft, and I'll try and book it before everybody's drafts in the league so that we can, give you a little insight on how we construct teams and actually go against us. So, yeah. But let's keep moving on. And I got another name that I think, like I said before, I think people are going to give me a lot of flack for, and I genuinely don't care because I ain't touching him with a 10-foot pole either, unless I'm in like a dynasty league. And that's Michael Harris of the Atlanta Braves. Michael Harris, you know what? We all know what the upside could be with him, but, he hasn't really done it. And he hasn't really lived up to, ADP of pick 36. Like, that is the part that's like really, really frustrating for me. Michael Harris had a little bit of a nice little spark at the end of the season, but he played a full season last year. He didn't play every single game. He played 138, but 505 at bats last year, 76 runs, 33 doubles, 3 triples, 18 bombs, 57 ribs, 20 stolen bases, and batted 293. Like, the batting average was great last year, but I feel like that even came in like large stints. I'm going to pull up his splits, but like for where people were drafting him last year to where he finished was just astronomically two different expectations. And I feel like whoever drafted him last year really got the poop end of the stick, in my opinion, because he definitely didn't live up to it. And you know what? I'm completely right too. Like the first half, for instance, like with 231 at bats, 33 runs, 10 doubles, a triple, 9 bombs, 26 ribs, 11 stolen bases, and batted 255. The second half, he batted 325. He had another 9 home runs, hit 9 stolen bases, and hit 23 doubles in that time. Like, I'm looking at Michael Harris and I want to see what everybody else is seeing. I want to see him do it though. Like, that's the thing. I'm not like, okay, I can't see a path where the kid's not going to be successful and good, because ultimately in 2022, he kind of showed out and kind of showed us, hey, like he could be really good because he had literally a little less than 100 at bats less and, did more than this year. So, like, yeah, the path for Michael Harris is there, but can he actually do it? Can he be worth that pick of 36? And I'm not banking that bet on, players' third year trying to get her done. It's not like we're waiting on Vladimir Guerrero Jr., where like the prospect pedigree, I mean, shoot, like the bloodline pedigree, where like, okay, I was willing to take that bet while he was figuring it out. Like Michael Harris just isn't my guy for that. And um, I just wish he was going about like 30 or 40 picks later, and then I'd strongly consider him. I'm just not walking away with him in any drafts because you could say the argument for him would be, oh well, even if he busts like in certain categories, you're still buying like the runs and ribbies potential. But like he was in that lineup last year, and this was his production. Like, did he benefit? No. So like he has to take a step forward in order to return on the pick 36. And I'm not banking my draft and my league on that. I rather wait and buy low on him 2 weeks into the season because the owner is kicking himself in the butt. So Michael Harris is more of an in-season buy low than a draft for me. Price is way too high. All right, let's talk about a name I've beaten up a whole bunch, and I feel like I'm right in this aspect, and that's CJ Abrams. Abrams, great player, at one point, the number one prospect, but for starters, he's on a team where I just don't see a world where he is not hampered in the runs and ribbies category just based off of the team around him. Even though he's brought in a decent amount last year, 83 runs, but the ribbies were putrid at 64. The really nice thing about him is he has 47 stolen bases. But the batting average is also lacking at pick 3 at not pick at batting average of 245. Now, I know what he's done in the minors. He batted 310 and 296. Don't get me wrong, but those were seasons in short little stints too. Like my guy only had under 200 at bats in both those seasons that he did that. And all three actually. And he was what, 20 and 21 and 18. Like I just look at this and I go, all right, dude, like, do you really have batting average? Maybe you have it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. I look at him and I can't see a path where I'm drafting him just because of his draft price. And Abrams is another one where it's like, okay, let's see real quick. Abrams is going 59, and I'm really not drafting a stolen base specialist that maybe can contribute in runs and stolen bases and maybe average. Like he's a 3 category contributor, and he's in shortstop position of all things too. Like, okay, I could draft a guy that's going to do all that around that pick, but also contribute in at least another category or two. So, everyone's like, oh, like Dom will tell you, like, oh, he might hit 25 home runs. I need to see it first. I need to see it because he had a full season last year and he only had 18. Like, that's great, but I need to see it. He's never really like had like a real serious pace. Maybe in 22, where he had 7 home runs and 171 at bats. Like it times that by 3, and yeah, he's got 24 home runs. Wait, so, no, 21 home runs. Man, my math is off. Which is 3 more home runs that he did last year. Like CJ Abrams, too high, too much, too much how do I put this? Too much volatility in his outcomes. And I'm not about it. I ain't paying pick 59 for it. So yeah, that's just me right there. Now I'm gonna tell you about this next guy, and then we're gonna go to an ad break real quick. So next up is gonna be Matt McLean. And he's another darling, somebody that like I really want, and I just feel like the community has just gotten too much on board and driven up the price a little too high and a little too rich for my blood. So I'll tell you that and more right after this break. Are you frustrated with the ticket buying experience? You weren't sure if the seats were good, couldn't find last minute tickets for the big game. Well, it's probably because you weren't using Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when buying tickets for your big event. You should just be relaxed and enjoying the show. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, view from your seats, the best price is guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind when purchasing tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code. Redeem the code Locked On LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the app, Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, so we got a little bit left here, and then we're going to be riding off into the sunset. So, like I mentioned right before the break, I want to cover Matt McLean. Matt McLean, I love him. I think he's going to be great as long as there's, you know, everyday playing time. With Jonathan India being hurt, you know, maybe the 63rd pick overall based off of ADP is somewhat worth it, but there's still the upside of year 2 player. And you know what? He's done the things that make me want to get him, but I don't know. There's too many options around there that are a little bit more safer that I could kind of, you know, say, okay, I'll pick Matt McLean. But the problem is for me too, if I'm gonna take a risky pick, I'm gonna pick Royce Lewis who's going right after him. And I'm just gonna, kind of go with the real high upside of Royce Lewis versus Matt McLean if I'm feeling risky and frisky and risky at that point. So like Matt McLean, excellent. I wouldn't blame you. Like this is the one where it's like, okay, if you really want a piece of him, go for it. But like there's roster stabilizers going around him, such as like Alex Bregman, uh, Christian Yelich, you know, Christian Walker. Like there's names right there that like, okay, I'm good with. Or even there's upside plays for power if he falls to you, Kyle Schwarber. Like there is guys that are going around in that area where Matt McLean is just too expensive for you, and you could go and scoop up a position that you kind of would prefer to scoop up. Whereas, like in a few rounds later, there's Geloff, there's Stott, there's Gorman, there's a whole bunch of other second basemen that I'd much rather have that cost me a lot less than I can get a more consistent, less risky pick. And even if the other guys I named are a little bit more risky, they cost me a hell of a lot less. So like Matt McLean for me, it's too rich for my blood this year. Not even a matter of am I questioning the talent. And if India does play on opening day and is available, it's also going to mess up Matt McLean's playing time, along with CES and a couple other players too. One of these guys are either going to have to get hurt, play their way into the minors, or not even make opening day roster. And even though I like what Matt McLean did, there's still those possibilities. And I'm like this with it. And I just feel like the price is too much. So I'm just going to move on from this now. And I think I've, again, beat a dead horse. But let's move on here. Let's talk about JT Realmuto. Again, another dress philosophy thing, but also a performance thing too, in all honesty. Um, I'm looking at JT Realmuto going to pick 76. Just how my draft philosophy is. I don't draft catchers that high. So that's already one knock. The second knock is the trend that JT Realmuto has been doing over the last couple of years. Like, it's just not fun for me. And I feel like he isn't returning on any of his value over the last couple of years. And it's been getting worse. This year, 489 at bats, 70 runs, 28 doubles, 5 triples, 20 bombs, 63 ribs, 16 stolen bases. You know, walked 35 times to 138 strikeouts and batted 252. Like, you picked him last year in the top 50. He's only gone down 20 picks. And if you look since 21, when he had a good-ish season, it hasn't even like been like spectacular. And I'm just like, okay, dude, like you're good. You play every day, but you're not really getting the job done to warrant this kind of high of a pick for me. So like JT Realmuto has a great team behind him, but I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole. Like he's a no draft for me. Be honest, he's probably going to be on my bust list, and you could see the path for it. He does exactly what he did last year, and he doesn't live up to the draft cost. Like, let's look at guys going around him real quick. right? So Christian Walker right after him. Nolan Arenado, even though he's dealing with back issues, that's a whole nother animal. If he's going to be healthy, I'm going to like it. Even pitching going on around there. Jesus Luzardo, another favorite pick of mine going on there. Like, let's see, O'Neal Cruz, Josh Lowe. Like, these are guys you can go and snag and just say, okay, like, I'm good with this. I'm going to take this and I'll go get a catcher later, which there's plenty later in the draft that aren't going to cost you that much. You could fill up your outfield with, a Lowe. You could go and get a third baseman, a shortstop that's actually going to provide actual production day in and day out. So JT Realmuto, do not draft. Sorry, buddy. Now, I'm going to be quick on him. We talked about him yesterday. We talked about him on our early buzz show. That's Ha-Seong Kim. He is a stolen base specialist going way too high, in my opinion. Kim is just not here for me. I'm too cool for school, I guess, because everybody else feels the exact opposite way. But pick 83 is too rich for my blood. Again, I'd rather wait for Stott. I'd rather wait for Geloff versus, picking him up. The same guys going around that I just mentioned with O'Neal Cruz and Josh Lowe, like those are the guys I'd really walk away with. Even Joe Ryan and whatnot. Bobby Miller's going around their pick, and that's a more enticing pick than Kim, which is not really a sexy pick, and nor is it really a safe pick at this point. He steals bases. He maybe can get you some average, but at the end of the day, he hasn't really shown up, and I'm not really going to go, and I'm going to go buy a age 27 breakout and think he's going to continue it at age 28. Like, just not for me. Since being in the bigs, he's had 6 stolen bases, 12, then 38. Is it repeatable? No, I think there's some negative regression coming his way. Ribbies aren't going to be there. Runs probably going to go down a little bit too, just because they lost Juan Soto. Why would I pick him? He's just too rich for my blood. Do not touch. All right, I got one last guy, and I need to talk about it real quick. And it's a pitcher this time, not a bat. And it's Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease is going way too high because he's being drafted in the top 100. And that needs to cease at all costs. No wordplay at all, but pick 94. Dylan Cease, we're all trying to, recover that Cy Young win a couple years ago. And I just don't think it's there. Like, he had a 4.58 ERA. He had a 4.58 ERA following up a 2.20 ERA. Like, what? Like, no. I would have expected if what he did in 2022 was even relatively real, he would have had a 3.3 ERA to a 3.5 ERA. But no, instead he goes a full 2 1/3 runs higher. Like, what are you doing? Now, the only thing that's good about him is he had 214 strikeouts. Like, that's nice. That's the only category he's contributing in. For starters, what team is he on right now? The White Sox. They're not winning many games. His whip is a 1.41. That's also pretty cruddy. What are you doing drafting him in the top 100? Do not do it to yourself. Do not let this bust of a pick be there. His upside is the same amount of Ks, a 4 ERA, and a 1.3 whip. Don't do it to yourself. That's still not worth pick 94, in my opinion. There is a hell of a lot more guys going around in that area. Joe Musgrove, Yuri Perez, Cole Reagans, Tanner Bybee, like Sonny Gray. Like, there is guys going around there that are so much better and going to do so much more for your roster and return on that pick. So don't pick Dylan Cease. With that being said, guys, I'm getting out of here. So please like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And we'll be back tomorrow for our third base preview, where we talk about our targets, our avoids, and break down the position in total. So until next time, guys, peace.